Good morning, everybody. Nettie Owens here, and today I have Keith Daw with me. I'm so excited that you are joining us again for the segment on what businesses need to know right now. Today we're talking about blind spots. I've brought with me Keith Daw, the Vice President and Trainer with McDonald Consulting Group, an authorized licensee of Sandler Training. They have a state-of-the-art center in Baltimore, Maryland, in Towson area, and it's gorgeous, so definitely check that out. He places his focus and energy on amplifying professionals, teams, and organizations in the area of leadership, sales, strategic customer care, and especially that human communications thing, which is actually kind of a mess right now. Some people are doing it really well and others are just, it's like Monday morning every single week. More than 8 years, Daw has served in the dual role of both producer as well as practitioner, and intentionally incorporates many of his own lessons learned in his talks and trainings, which are also excellent, which is why I've brought you here today. And I'd love to just expand on this idea. We were talking before about what do businesses need to know right now, and what came up was this concept that you're really familiar with, and that is blind spots. So I want to just dive right into that. We're almost halfway through the year. What are blind spots, and why do businesses need to start turning towards them?
So great question. And thanks for having me here and for the kind words. Certainly appreciate it. So when it comes to the idea of the blind spots, there's that saying that, what we don't know can, kill us, cause harm, et cetera. And I think there's a lot of business owners of various sized businesses that they know what they do well and they do a lot of it. And sometimes things are just kind of, you kind of create the airplane in the air, so to speak. And as they start going along, it's helpful to have a third party, and some have those, peer forums, CEO groups, or whatever they go to be able to bounce ideas by. But sometimes, whether it's their people, their processes, we call the performetrics, what it is that you're measuring to get those milestones and make adjustments. Sometimes there's some little gaps that are in there. And we'll talk with customers and they think everything's going well, and maybe they're at 80%, but they don't know what it takes for that 20. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to have that outside perspective that can kind of audit or maybe provide some validation, you're doing a great job here. Tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to accomplish there. And then
a question as we're talking about that, if somebody's going along at 80% and they feel like they're doing really well, what's going to be the trigger that tells them I should probably take a pause and get an outside perspective? Like, what would tip them off? Is it just a timing thing? You should do it every 6 months, like brushing your teeth, you just do it. And, even if you don't feel like they need to be brushed, what's going to trigger somebody to check into this?
So great question. And in this area, it's probably less of a simple question. So if you're working with a CPA, they're going to be evaluating your numbers and evaluate what you're doing quarterly or whatever. And if you're working with a law firm, periodically, they're automatically going to review contracts and review things. So this is nature. When it comes to the areas of my people and the processes that we have running it, again, sales, leadership, whatever it might be, usually it only happens when there's a problem or when it happens when there's a hiccup. So obviously, ideally, we'd be proactive and said, hey, let's go ahead and just double check, make sure that there's nothing needs to be tweaked. But I also think right now with the crazy situation that everybody's facing, it's making them pause of what did we miss that we're in this situation? And now proactively thinking, or even sometimes reactively, what do we need to tweak, fix, adjust, or how do we this business landscape is going to be evolving in some manner. So are there things that we've always done that we need to keep doing, or are there things that we've always done that perhaps we need to adjust? Sometimes it's just do more of the same thing. Maybe it's do it slightly differently. Maybe I just need to get better at doing some of those.
So you have some tools in your toolkit that you often use for kind of finding these blind spots. What are a few of your favorites to evaluate?
So we actually have a complimentary benchmarking assessment that we share with business owners all the time. And it's one of those that makes them pause and look into their business, probably in ways that they don't typically do because they're running a and hair on fire, Mach 2, all that stuff.
Right.
And so that's something that I just very generously I give to any business owner that says, hey, take a look. And maybe you're in the 66th percentile, which is not bad,
Right.
but you can think, oh yeah, well, I guess maybe, maybe I didn't focus as much time there. Maybe I never really thought about that. Having been a business owner myself, years ago, there's some blind spots that I had that I didn't know because money's coming in, clients are happy, the team is happy, like everything was good. And
I can relate there.
and so at some point, just to maybe take pause and just double check. And so again, that's an assessment, and I'm more than happy to share it with whomever.
Do you have a link to that? Or would they just go to you to LinkedIn or on your website? How would they get access to talk to you about that?
So since my name is short, it's probably easiest to find me on LinkedIn and go that route.
Okay.
I can certainly provide the link if you want to go ahead and share it with whomever. And it might be something they click, they download, they do it on their own, and they never reach out and say, hey, thanks, or hey, I got a question about. But then if somebody says, the score was not as high as I thought it would have been, or I would have liked it, can we chat? We'll schedule 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and we'll just go through it. And there have been some times where just having that conversation has given them, okay, now I know where to focus.
Right.
But they're experts in certain areas and recognize that there's other areas that aren't necessarily their specialty, which is why you hire professionals like CPAs and attorneys and people to handle your IT, people to handle your insurance. If at some point some of those questions pop up and I don't really know how to fix it, then certainly we have those tools and resources to do so.
So quick question, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but we've been into this thing now for over 2 months, and I'm really curious, have you worked with anybody who identified a blind spot in the middle of this crisis and was able to pivot or was able, I'm sorry, like the word just came out of my mouth and
Right.
Everybody's using it, so I'm just gonna go like die a little over here, but if anybody that's been able to adjust to see that blind spot, to make a change, can you share us like a specific story? You don't need to say names, but I'd love to just hear, where that's coming up now.
Absolutely. There was one company in particular that recognized from a leadership standpoint, they were growing so quickly and they put people into that role. Either, hey, you've been here longer, people know you and like you. So they put people into those roles and they didn't give them all the resources because they didn't really have the time as they're, again, going so, so fast. And that made them pause and say, you know what, I don't know from a personal professional development standpoint, who's really slated to be an awesome leader. And then what do I, as the owner, need to give them to be able to execute? And
so how did you figure that out with them?
So we have an assessment that we'll work with that focuses on competencies and aptitudes in that given role. In this case, it was leadership. Mm-hmm. So they said, I want to evaluate the entire company, because there are some people that are already managing people internally. There are some who are managing externally, some combination of both. And it would be good for me to know the ones that are currently in that leadership role, what, if anything, do they need to do differently or better, so I can provide those resources. But then who are the people that are perhaps on deck? Who are the people that I have my eye on? And I think when the time comes, he or she's going to be ready for it. What am I doing to be able to make certain that they're in the right roles, that have them on the right path? And the leader mentioned to the company, right now is some of the challenges that we're facing from a leadership standpoint are the things that are going to be addressed during the training. So if we wait until the end of the year to fix the things that we think we need some help with, there's 5 or 6 months where we're still struggling, and it might make it worse. And it could cost us employees, it could cost us customers or clients.
So I love that they were willing to take that peek in, to make the changes and adjustments now, and then to have better performance throughout the year. Keith, thank you so much for joining us today. I've put below the link to the website where you can find Keith and the materials that he's talking about. He also is available on LinkedIn and easy to find. Just search for Keith Daw. I'm sorry I don't have that link here now. Thank you again for coming, and looking forward to hearing more about those companies that have been able to adjust in this time.
Thanks for having me, Nettie. I appreciate it.